Hello everybody, I'm Ard, and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. Last episode, we solved some of our power problems by introducing an induction matrix to store and transmit a large amount of power from Mechanism, as well as flux networks to do wireless transfer at near infinite speed rates. So this solved a lot of our problems, but now we need to ask the question of what are we going to do with this? And I think the first thing we're going to do is upgrade our Void Miner. Because our Void Miner right now is currently up to tier 4 and we only have one more required tier to go to create the last item we need, which actually allows us to progress into endgame crafting and draconic evolution. And it's currently consuming about 243,000 RF a tick, which seems like a lot, but we're currently generating 1 million. I am a bit worried about how much more power the tier 5 is going to consume, especially with more speed upgrades put into it, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We can always throttle the amount of power going into it via flux networks. And to make the tier 5 Void Miner is just about the same as all of the tiers before. It requires a bunch of the material that comes out of the tier 4 one, as well as some iridium neutron reflectors, which is new, but which is not hard to make. It's just time consuming. It should be easy to automate though. It's just a bunch of plates and some iridium. On top of that, we need a bunch more structure frames and some more other miscellaneous pieces. So let me tear this down and start the process to automate this. All right, so I got all the pieces made. I didn't actually end up automating the neutronium plating stuff for the Void Miner. I only really need it again if I make it tier 6 one or more tier 5s. It just didn't seem that important. It seemed kind of convoluted, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So let's set this up and let's see how horrifying the power draw on it is. Woo! 1.2 million, which is more than I can handle right now, so I'm gonna have to take out a couple of the speed upgrades to bring it down some. Just a sec. Okay, I took out 4 of them, which brought it down to 780,000, which I think is something we can stomach for now, although we will dramatically need to increase our power up. Oh, but this sure is pulling stuff in almost faster than we can process it, so that's good to know. And there's the Atheum that I have to go put in my filters. And woo, yep, this sure is chewing up almost all of our remaining power. We're at almost capacity here, which is good. That's actually a good place to be. So we're not exceeding it yet. That said, why should we stop here? There's a reason why I did the Void Miner first today. We're going to continue on into environmental tech, because I had to start with the Void Miner to figure out how many materials I had left so that I could start into the solar array line, because this uses up way more of these materials than the Void Miner does. It uses just an absolutely staggering amount, but thankfully you can mix and match the solar panels themselves, so we can build up as high a controller as we can manage and then build a whole bunch of panels to put on top of it. So let's talk for a minute about what goes into making these. And they're not dissimilar from the Void Miner. It starts out with a tier 1 and builds up to a tier 6. And they start out with the basic controller and build out from there in a large multi-block structure, not unlike the Void Miner. You can see it lists the pieces you need, and the first tier is not too bad at all. Just like the Void Miner as well, you use the previous tier to upgrade it, and it uses increasingly more materials. In this case, it uses a ton of iridium, as well as iridium solar cells to build it out, and the structure gets bigger. Unlike the Void Miner, however, once you start getting up to tier 4, it starts requiring extended crafting to make this. And tier 4 is probably the point where we're going to tap out on this for now, because as soon as we hit tier 5, it gets extremely cost prohibitive for materials, requiring a ton of ionite, which we have, but it also requires 121 solar cells to make. And the solar cells also use a fair chunk of ionite, as well as the tier below it, which requires the tier below it, and then yada yada down the chain. These get extremely expensive to make. Now, this is where I said we need to kind of get a feel for how much we can actually make, and this is also why I made the Void Miner first, so that we wouldn't have to worry about being able to make that after I try to start making these solar panels. So let me go build a couple tiers of the controller, and we'll see where we stand. Okay, so yeah, I did stop at the tier 4 solar controller, which is fine. I don't really need to go above that right now. And I was able to make the full 81 Atheum solar cells. But I learned a trick while doing this, because while making these, you need to make a ton of these litherite solar cells. And that requires these interconnectors that require connectors. And these connectors can be made in the replicator for relatively cheap prices. despite the fact that the connector itself does not show as being able to be replicated. So this is a good reminder to check various subcomponents as you play through this pack in the replicator's scanner just to see if it will actually read it, because there's some things that are not listed that are useful. One of the other things I found were modularium ingots for making modular machines. That's a pretty big time saver there as well. So let's go put this together. And we're going to pull the same trick we pulled with the fusion fuels, because the end never gets dark. It always stays daytime, and there's no weather to disrupt it, so we don't need the piezo modifier to actually use these during rain. So let me clear out this chunk here. And if you don't know what this grid thing here is, this is F9. It shows you the chunk boundaries, so you can make sure you're well within it. And we want to put it in the center where that yellow line is, because this is eventually going to get bigger, and it's eventually going to fill up the whole chunk if I take it up to tier 6. Okay, and I put it a few blocks up off the ground so we can easily access the bottom. Let's put this together. You just right click it with the assembler, just like the Void Miner and all other environmental tech machines. And there we go. We'll put a flux plug on it to extract the power, put an energy input, and now increase the transfer limit. And now we are outputting another 700,000 RF, which is not bad for an evening's work here, eh? Now, this scales well up into the millions if you get it into the tier 6. It's directly comparable to the fusion reactors. This is a really, really powerful power source. It's just very resource intensive, especially when you get up to tier 6 and you require a ton more of these cells. But we are actually pretty close to achieving that, except when I say pretty close, I mean not close at all, because this requires singularities among other problematic materials like the ultimate ingot, which is the ultimate crafting one that requires all the other ingots. So we might be able to get up to tier 5 without too much trouble, but I'm going to call another 700k power pretty good for a day. And that actually brings it up to 1.7 million RF between all of our other sources. I can actually probably remove most of my other ones right now, because really, 35k isn't really cutting it at this point. Even my 80k advanced generator isn't really doing much, and the hamsters are probably just causing lag. But this was significant progress and cleared out a ton of quests in our book, as well as some stuff we'd finished previously we just hadn't added up yet. Although I probably should finish this piezo modifier real fast to clear this out too, huh? Let me go back to my base. All right, so I made the piezo modifier real quickly, and I'm just gonna shove that into my storage system. So now let's grab all of these rewards and be done with most of this chapter for now, and things from a few other chapters that we completed along the way. And let's see if we got anything useful this time, eh? Precision sawmill, which is used in a craft at least. Puzzle. Another tape measure that I don't need. More anti-blocks that I'm probably not gonna use. Food we haven't eaten. Really, purple blocks. Oh, more draconic evolution crystals though. Concrete powder, for real. Greenhouse glass would be nice, except I don't have a garden that's outside. Really? Drawer upgrades. Frame blocks? Well, I'll take a free resonator though, they're not hard to make. More bookshelves. Food we have eaten. Lanterns, which they aren't hard to make, but I'll take them. Fossil resonator, really? That's like the 4th or 5th one of these we've gotten. Rod of shifting crust, which I think we've only got 2 or 3 of now. And some glass. So yep, that was pretty much all garbage. Oh, I see a couple more chests on the ground that I didn't pick up. Inventory upgrade cake, which we've had for quite a while. Explosives. And a turret. So yeah, those weren't worth going to go pick up. Well, that's about what I expect from these at this point, however. But we did make a lot of progress, and we actually significantly increased our power output yet again this time. But we needed it, given that the Void Miner is now massive. If you found this interesting or entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribing if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.